recording has begun.
Thank you. We're going to go ahead and start this off the same way we start off with every one of these meetings with the next meeting date. I know we do have RAG coming up as well, so we can plan around that a little bit. Just as a short list, I have May 21st, June 4th, or June 11th as prospective dates. June 4th would be the weekend at the end of RAG. June 11th would be a little bit over a month, June or May 21st. So, are there any strong feelings for any of those dates?
Do we have any preference on whether we should do a meeting right before Ragnarok or right after Ragnarok?
I see some comments for June 11th. I haven't seen any. So I see two for June 11th. I haven't heard of anything else. Are you saying you want to do two meetings, one before and one after?
Oh no, I don't think that's necessary.
Okay, I just wanted to clarify.
Yeah, I didn't know if people had preference, to discuss things before Ragnarok or discuss things after. Maybe after is better because honestly, if anybody has questions Ragnarok related, hopefully they know the channels to reach out to people to do that.
That's fair. I see quite a bit of support for June 11th, which would give them about a week after RAG to kind of get ideas together and get it all composited. So unless there's any other support for any other dates, we will move forward with that. Okay, I'm not seeing anything else. Let me know if I missed anything, any other posts as far as dates. See more typing, but we'll give them just a second. Okay, so we will move forward with that. I will add that to the agenda for today. So that next meeting will be June 11th at 7 p.m. Eastern Time. Okay, I was going to look for an update from Zekard for the election office or the election officer election or the elections in general for the BOD, but I don't know that they are present today. I don't see them on the list of users, so I will go ahead and I guess we'll just move forward from there unless anyone else has heard from them and has any information. Okay, I see Hodor has mentioned that he should be here, and we'll give him a text. We will continue to move on from there. I had added in see if there were any updates from Leon about the open positions for RAG. I know it is pretty close, so I'm hoping that those got filled. Not seeing them either here, but that's okay.
It'd be okay to make another request for Ragnarok?
Yeah, go ahead. What do you have?
So we have volunteers for for running day events for every day. We're looking except for Tuesday and Wednesday. So we're looking for someone that's willing to run either day woods events or a day wood event on Tuesday, and then a day field event or castle events on Wednesday. So those are still positions open. I'm requesting emails to ericosgtg@gmail.com. Is it okay if I post that in the meeting chat?
Yeah, please.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah, I did have that on the agenda as well. It was part of those open positions. I know earlier you had mentioned for those events and scenarios, so thank you for bringing that up too. I should have asked. Sorry about that.
Well, no problem. Thank you very much.
Okay. Unless anyone has anything else here, I see Zucker has joined. Zucker, do you have any updates on the elections from your election officer position?
Yes, I met with. I apologize. I don't know the pronunciation. It's either Karad or Karad, and I know the process. I'm going through creating the Google Forms of duplicating what was there prior, and now. So I'll be doing that this week and then announcing the elections and now everything like that. So we'll be hopefully live by Tuesday or Wednesday. And then once that's done, I'm going to be posting on each of the social media channels. I actually wanted to get with Timorn to, I don't know how you guys want me to handle the kind of lower level details of posting on the social media channels and whether I should do that on behalf of myself, of Charlotte Dagger here, or on the DBGA side. So I'll talk to Timorn about that or somebody else that would be a good representative to speak to. And then we'll have everybody kind of announce their, running, and then I'll publish a full schedule of how the elections are going to go, and then we should have that wrapped up hopefully by, I would hope by end of May, like fully wrapped up, and then we can start onboarding and ramping up the new
So
Sorry,
we would still
I
need to
would
have the vote and everything through the chapter council, so that would probably be at the next. So you'll probably have the list of candidates ready by the next chapter council meeting, which would be on June 11th, correct?
everything should be done by then, and
Okay.
and we'll know who is stepping in, and then at that point, behind the scenes they can start onboarding, getting familiar. I think those positions go live in July or August. The new people will actually be fully stepped in and into the board of directors. So I think that still gives us. I know the bylaws say April 2nd, but honestly, it still gives us a really good runway, even if we start these in early May to get everything squared away.
Okay. Tim Moore had a hand.
All right, so if I'm not mistaken, the bylaws state that this should have already been active. The timing on Ragnarok and the meeting are going to be, I wouldn't say problematic, but there's going to be some overlap with Ragnarok moving to the time frame that it's in. The elections, I believe, were supposed to be held the end of the end of May instead of into June. What I would propose is that we just push it to the next meeting for July or June 11th, unless anybody has any problems with that. But candidacies should be announced. People should be, I'm having a brain fart on the word for asking somebody to be a candidate.
Nominated.
Nominations and everything else like that should be handled, but that can all be done online through the Discord between meetings. And then the election itself, I believe, would take place June 11th, and then people would be brought into office. August 1st, I believe, is the date by bylaws. I don't have them up in front of me, and I do apologize for that right now. It's just the timing's a little bit goofy with Ragnarok moving. So as long as the chapter council is amicable towards doing everything that way, without hosting another meeting during Ragnarok, should be fine.
Right. So Hodor is mentioned that in the bylaws themselves, it does say that the election shall be held in May over the course of a week. So I guess to Zekar's point, we could still do that. It would just be kind of against what we have been doing historically as the chapter council during the meetings, because we did we do the 2 weeks of the announcement or the proposal, then we do the meeting, and then we do the votes after that. Is there a way that, or is anyone here? I guess I see two paths forward. Either we can have the candidates at the June 11th meeting and then continue with our standard chapter council practices, or we can go through the way that the bylaws are saying as it's done over a week, and then we would just kind of have to have, I assume, the candidates and the list of candidates, and then the votes through Discord like we have been. It would just be, there wouldn't be any meeting necessarily required.
Yeah, the bylaws don't necessarily state that a meeting is required. It just has to take place over a consecutive week's time.
Right. So is anyone against doing it that way? Is anyone against having just getting it all done through Discord through the week and like in that May or by the end of May?
No objection here.
I see you doing any typing, so I was going to give. Okay.
Not related.
No problem. That is fine. So we'll just continue that way. I was under a incorrect impression. So yeah, Zachary, whenever you have the candidates, just go ahead and you can put them in the chapter council like Discord chat, and then we will just conduct the voting over a course of a week or the course of a week at that time.
All right. I'll get with you guys a little bit further to kind of outline the process and schedule, iron that out, and then get everything squared away. But I still need a little bit more advisement on where I should post about these sorts of things. I mean, not just in the Discord, but we can go over the lower level details a little bit later. But if you guys don't mind sticking around after the meeting, I'd like to handle some of those points.
Yeah, I can stick around after the meeting to help you out with that.
I appreciate it. Thank you. That's it for me.
Perfect. Thanks. So that will handle the first 2 points. Next, we have the proposal from Grappler in with regards to the elections and their proposal. Grappler, if you want to take it away, you can cover that real quick.
That's you, Chris.
Yeah, no, I'm here. My mic was acting stupid. Black and white. I mean, just give it a little bit of an outline thing here that I notice our elections are one. We're still filling out the election process and how everything's going around, and I feel that if we try and get all this logistical nightmare figured out right with every single office at the same time, it's one, we're running into candidacy issues, and then two, it's just a matter of it's a lot to run all at once. I just feel for fluidity's sake, if we start staggering them, could help our organization out a little bit. Again, if there's an objection to it, by all means, bring it up. But I just feel that this could really benefit our association a little bit better.
Okay. Any comments from anyone else in that regard? Go ahead, Timor.
All right, so this has been discussed by all 6 members of the BOD. It's something that we agree with, but we wholly rely on the chapter council to make its decision as to whether or not it wants to alter the terms for each individual post. We also realize that with the chapter council's current actions towards the arbiter position in particular, that this will have some changes coming down the pike as well if the arbiter post is altered through the chapter council to go to a different format. These things are all being covered and everything else like that. But from a logistics standpoint, one of the biggest things that we as the BOD have run into is that with everybody getting elected all at once every year, it does become problematic for turnover. We are concerned with losing information like we have in the past, and a bunch of other things, and it's been something that we would like, but we didn't want to propose on our own. We want the chapter council to make those decisions. So please look at the proposal and think about it, and do what you all feel is best for the organization. But we support it either way. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Okay. Nobody against it. No other real comments. I'll make a posting opening for that with the vote being over the next 2 weeks, and then we would tally them up and go from there. And then we will get to the last proposal on the agenda for today, which is Damon's, and that was regarding the armor change. I apologize for the delay on this. I may have dropped the ball on adding it to an agenda and lost it. But Damon, if you want to go ahead and cover that real quick, we will continue on.
Hello. So initially, we're just trying to reduce it down to 10 ounces, or was it 532? I will post my proposal in the meeting chat, as well as a picture for those who do not know the differences in thicknesses. Let's see if this works. It is. So we're losing less than a millimeter of thickness when it comes to leather armor thickness. The 10 ounces is easier to work with, and it's more available. So instead of making it a monopoly on these companies, people can actually craft, because that's something the sport needs to get back to, is arts and sciences. And honestly, no one wants to work with thick ass leather. Aside from that, that's all it is. It's to help cross gaming as well, because Bellagarth has also reduced theirs to 10 ounces. So we can allow for cross gaming, because we definitely need to get our numbers up. So if anyone has any questions.
Thank you. So my only critique personally is I think I would prefer to have either the fractional inches or the like millimeters, some form of like specific measurement, as opposed to saying 10 ounces, because I know that sometimes that can get confusing. That if we say, hey, we want it to be 5/32 of an inch thick at minimum, in general that's 10 ounces or something, then I think that's something that people can reference, as opposed to having it be the ounce measurement.
Yeah, and the proposal I put on there, it has the fractional inches as well. But when you go to these websites, when you buy something, they're not going to have the fraction, they're going to have the ounces. So this is geared to those who want to buy leather and craft it. So if we're putting 532 as a primary and not putting 10 ounces, it may cause some issues in trying to locate leather. So if we're to do the proposal, I would want both the 10 ounces and the fractional inches on there.
Okay, yeah, I see it now. I had misread it, but yeah, I see the 5/32 and then 10 ounces in the parentheses. That works.
Warren
And
had a hand.
oh, sorry, I missed that. Go ahead, Tamar.
I just wanted to state that this is actually a very well worded proposal. It does cover all of the bases for all of the problems that I had brought up as the head armor check when we first enacted the 12 ounce 3/16 rule. This still allows for calipers. It makes it very easy. It's very concise. And I'd have to say that this is probably a long time coming as well. I think Damon's done a pretty good job on this. And as a leather crafter and an armor checker, I personally have no problem with that proposal. I think it's very well written. Over.
Thank you. Go ahead, Olaf.
Question I had for you guys, probably to Maureen actually, or anybody else. I've worked with leather quite a bit too, and I know that if we buy 10-ounce leather, if they're going to buy 10-ounce leather, are they still going to have to buy 12-ounce leather so that we can use more of it? Or is 10-ounce leather more consistent all the way through than 12-ounce leather is? That's actually a question. I usually use 12-ounce leather, so I know it's inconsistent sometimes. Is that still going to be a problem? Does anybody know?
I can answer
It
that,
should- it
Damon,
should-
if you want.
Yeah, it should still be the same. If you're buying 12 ounce and you like that, that's fine. But like if someone's to ask me, hey, what leather should I buy? I'm going to say, hey, when you look for leather, when it has the ounce listed, make sure 10 ounces is the bare minimum. You can go higher and it's suggested you go higher. But when you add tooling, like a lot of the SOT armor is tooled, like every centimeter is tooled on it, it's going to reduce the size. So they need to keep that in mind. So essentially, if you're buying 11, 12-ounce leather and you tool it all, it's going to drop down near 10.
I totally understand the availability of it and so forth. I just want to make sure that people, that I'm just asking, is 10-ounce leather more consistent than 12-ounce leather? Because if not, we're still having the same problem. If people get 10-ounce leather, they're going to end up with smaller leather in the middle. We're going to have the same kind of use. Now, I understand the other side of it. You guys want to add, we want to add that so that other people is more available to get and so forth. I get that side of it, but I'm just wanting to ask that because I know a big part of it was that in 12-ounce leather, it's so inconsistent a lot of times that you have a lot of waste. Is that also the same thing in 10-ounce leather is what I'm asking.
To answer your question from a retail perspective, when purchasing leather, it's much more common for leather companies to sell 10 to 12 ounce leather as an available size because the minimum thickness is going to be closer to the 10 ounce. And they were actually trying to produce a 12 ounce piece of leather, but the inconsistencies keep them from marketing that way. So there is a lot more 10 to 12 ounce leather available than solid 12 ounce leather. You are still going to have the possibility that if you order specifically a 10 ounce leather piece from a lower priced place, that there may be some spots that are a little bit thinner, but traditionally 10 ounce leather is much more consistent, like you asked, because they're
All right,
actually
cool.
marketing a higher thickness leather that didn't quite make the grade, where they were trying to produce a 12 ounce piece and the hide just was not quite thick enough throughout. So it will be, this will actually make leather much more readily available through retail establishments other than business to business wholesalers is what it really comes down to. It's not going
Okay.
to affect people like me that have business accounts, but your average person is now going to be able to go online, order consistent leather thicknesses from Amazon, Springfield, Tandy, Weaver, Frog Jelly, Wicket and Craig and stuff like that. It will actually make it more readily available to the general public with a consistent status. Yes.
All right. That's what I know. Thank you.
Cool. Thank you, everybody. So that is everything that I have on the list for the agenda today. Go ahead, break it down.
Sorry, I'm a little confused. Is this going to be since we haven't really nailed down how the rules changes are going to work, how is this going to fold into the eventual actual process for rules changes for the MOA? Because currently the proposal that we have on the table so far that we're nailing down in the committee with Cyril is once every other year. Is this scenario gonna be the once every other year, or should we roll it into one thing when we actually have that scenario, when we have that section of the bylaws nailed down? That's pretty much the long and short of my question there.
So my impression is that the rules are not retroactive, that this change would be the one change for, say, this year, per the current bylaws for non-emergency MOA changes. But then when we enacted we passed the committee submission or proposal for the every other year, then we could stipulate that would be with the next year or with those changes. Like, it wouldn't necessarily say that, oh, since we made this change, we couldn't do one next year, depending on how we worded or the proposal from that committee is set up. But per the current bylaws, we would be limited to just this one non-emergency change. And I think Brigham was mentioning specifically with regards to the national MOA, not necessarily like individual chapters. And if anybody else has like a different interpretation, but I know that most of the time rules like that don't go into effect taking into consideration previous events, right? Like if we make a change to the bylaws that we're going to conduct all the elections without a chapter council meeting, then that's not necessarily going to affect the one we've done last year because we can't really go back and change that. Same thing with the MOA changes. I see a couple individuals typing, so I'll give them a moment to get that put together.
What Cirile said makes sense just now, but I guess my follow up question would be: do we want to designate a time where, because if we do this right now by the current bylaws, nobody else gets to make any sort of thing for the rest of this year, which is fine. I don't mind that, but some people might be feeling like they can't make their voice heard. Do we want to wait on Damon's proposal and fold it into a dedicated for this year, for the year of 2023? This is the time to do all your proposals meeting later in the year. That way it actually gives everybody time to to do, to actually get their proposals in order so that we can do them, anybody who wants to, rather than just do this one and then everybody's locked out until maybe 2 years from now, because I know people have been sitting on some stuff for the last 3 years. Just a thought.
So we did have a vote and a meeting on that specifically earlier this year that we had said, hey, this upcoming meeting, we're going to be, I don't know if we said the very next meeting, but we did have a poll from the chapter council saying, do we want to do the MOA changes with the next one? Because I know Damon had this proposal since late last year. I do see a couple hands. I believe Timorn had the next one.
I'm going to let Damon go before me because this is directly related to his proposal. Damon had a hand up too. He might have retracted it though.
Oh, did I miss that?
No, I retracted it. You said what I was going to say.
Okay, thank you. Go ahead, Timorn.
All right. So, in looking at this, in the way that interpretations of the bylaws have to happen, anytime the chapter council makes a change to the bylaws that relates to how the bylaws affect the rest of the game, like if you guys make a vote to change the bylaws to do the non-emergency changes and the emergency changes on something like that, the way that I'm going to interpretate the bylaws at that point in time is the moment you make that change to the bylaws, it kind of resets the timer on everything. So if you've changed the entire way that the process works, that the moment that change goes into effect, that's when we start looking at those times. So just using June 11th as an example, if the bylaws committee that Cirile is coming up with makes that change that we're going to do this on even years, we're going to do this on odd years, that's the moment at which that becomes the precedent. Right now, the chapter council is kind of just still going through its infancy of making things happen the way that they want to do it. So I'm kind of just allowing the interpretation to go as you guys do these things. But as you set specifics in place, that's kind of like the reset on the timer. So with Damon's proposal, this was something that was brought up in 2022. It just kind of got lost and pushed and shoved to now. This actually should have gone through in like November or something. So I'm not really looking at that too goofy in relation to what you guys are doing with the time frames. But I would like you all to get all of those things set in stone so that we can continue moving forward with those times having major decision on when they go. Does that make sense? Over.
Yeah. And just as a kind of further response, we haven't really heard of any other formal proposals coming forward. I'm sure there have been whispers and conversations and that going on in the background, but we had a chapter council meeting about it, like I said. If it wasn't the last one, it was the one previous, where I had specifically had that conversation with Damon and everyone there saying, hey, do we want to designate just like the next meeting as the one for that, so we have time to get our stuff in order, we can get our proposal submitted, we get all taken care of, and go that route. So I'm sure there are more conversations that are being had, but we have not seen any other concerted effort from anyone as far as for MOA changes. No, and I appreciate that you did. I completely agree that that is something that we need to consider. That I'm glad it was brought out in the open. Tomorrow.
To address what Ericos was asking, as part of the rules proposal, recommend adding a consistent manner in which armor will be checked for thickness, help the new purchaser understand before they invest time and resources into something that may not be usable. That's actually been something that's been a problem for years. The standard operating procedure has been to use calipers, just because that's what's traditionally used to measure thickness. There is no other way that we could come up with to consistently measure the thickness of leather, and so the open-armed calipers were what we kind of defaulted to. I don't know if we could actually put that in the MOA as the standard, because then you're requiring people to actually pay money to get calipers. So I don't know how you guys would want to handle that, but we've always used the open-arm calipers to measure thickness. Over.
Thank you. Odor.
Is it my understanding that this meeting is the meeting for the MOA changes?
For this year, yes.
So not going to be next month, because this is like, I know we talked about it, but I don't remember us setting the date that this will be the one, and we never announced it outside of the chapter council. There was no post that I saw on any of our medias about, hey, we need to get the proposal in hand for the rule change. So that's why I'm like, this doesn't feel right, because I feel like we're screwing over, once again, the entire game. Over. To Syria, we are voting right now. If this is the meeting, then we will have 1 week to vote after this meeting. Is that correct, Tyrus?
So we would have 2 weeks after this meeting for the vote for the proposal. There was at the previous meeting when we had all the chapter reps here with those conversations, then that it is on the responsibility of the chapter reps to bring that information back to their chapters. We can have more discussions about it, but at that previous meeting when we all agreed that, hey, this next coming up one is going to be when we make the MOA change proposal, y'all have, I think it was like, what, 2 or 3 weeks or to make your proposals and get it in. We had not heard anything else. And over the last year of meeting as a chapter council, the only one that has had any other information or any other push for it to get done has been this one. So I can see, I understand where you're coming from as far as, hey, maybe there should have been more light on it or more communication about it. But we as the chapter reps, it is our responsibility also to have those conversations with our chapters. And at that last meeting when we voted and we said, hey, we're going to have this, that was our opportunity to continue on with that and to make those further pushes. Ericos, you had a hand. I'm sorry, I stepped on your toes a little bit there.
Oh, no worries. Hey, just to throw it out there. So I've been the Eritari armor checker for about 30 years. I've been the head armor checker at Ragnarok. I have 2 sets of calibers and also a template that I use for both checking magnetic qualities of property, or magnetic value, if you will, or whatever quality of materials, as well as non-magnetic materials. Anyway, what I'm getting at is, based on the armor checker method, you may have armor that passes according to one armor checker, one Ragnarok or one event, the exact same armor with no changes occurring might fail for another armor checker at another event. And Cirele, the point I was trying to make is not so much that I agree with you completely that consistency of weapon checking and armor checking is different. The typical cost of a weapon versus armor is much lower. A typical fix for a weapon versus armor is also much lower. And if I was a nub and I went out and purchased a bunch of 9 to 10 ounce leather to make armor, and it all turned out to be 9 ounce, it failed, I would be a little disappointed. So I was just saying that if we add a consistent method of checking this, it would be helpful. That's all. Thanks, everyone.
Yeah, thank you for the input. And that was like, Brandon and I had made comments on that. Like, that may be another committee that we should put together as far as, hey, let's have an SOP for that. That doesn't necessarily ever overstep the idea of like rule 0, saying that, hey, we're still giving the ultimate discretion to the weapons checker at that time. If they feel that this object is unsafe for any reason, they can still fail it. But I think there is strong agreement and maybe a strong idea to have a committee put together for some sort of standardization, at least for the officially recognized DAG events. I don't know that you can do for every mom and pop event, but for like RAG and those, having an expectation that would then filter down to those smaller events may be a good way to go. Okay. Anyone else have any other comments for the meeting today?
Yeah, both Bregan and I had hands up.
Oh, I missed those. Go ahead, Bregan. Oh, Tim Warren's first. Go ahead, Tim Warren.
I'm not a member of the chapter council, so this is just a personal thing. I'm gonna kind of agree with Hodor a little bit on this one. While I understand the chapter council has been pushing and pushing and pushing and pushing for all of these notifications and stuff like that, with the change in the times and the change over the last couple of years, how Ragnarok was traditionally the time that rules changes were going through for proposals. What I would like to suggest is just a little bit of leeway that allow people to possibly bring one more set of rules changes before the chapter council at the June 11th meeting. That'll allow Ragnarok to take place and for them to speak to other people in person. Because we traditionally had the war council meetings at Ragnarok where a proposal was brought forth, there were days to discuss it, and then it was voted on then. I know we only have the one on the books, really, and everything else like that, but moving into the standard operating procedures and the precedent for moving forward, that this may be the last year that we have that flexibility, and then from this point forward, it is done on specific dates through the chapter council meeting, through Discord in an online fashion, and it sets the precedent for everyone going forward. But that will allow, in my opinion, one last chance to remove any form of alienation for people that are just not present online or through the chapter council meetings. I understand that it's the chapter council's job to go to their people and tell them, hey, we're doing it this way now, we're doing it this way now, we're doing it this way now. But people are slow to make certain changes. So I would just err on the side of caution as my own personal opinion. And that's all I got to say about that. Over.
Thank you. Bring it on. You had a hand.
Yeah, well, I see some back and forth, and I kind of want to head a couple of things off, and I want to expand maybe on what Ericos is saying, because I agree with what Ericos is saying, but I think it speaks to an issue we have in the way that we currently run weapons check and armor check and all of the above currently. When I started Dagger Here, I heard stories of a Dagger Here handbook that was a way for people to understand the general practices and procedures for weapons check and garb recommendations and things like that. I think something maybe not on that scale, but something on similar, at least in terms of SOP for weapon and armor check, would be a good thing to work towards in the near future. In addition, currently, because of the way that the system works and everything is kind of left to the local chapter. I am always available to answer any questions. I've run Ragnarok Weapons Check as second. I've run, or well, first. Yeah, I ran Ragnarok Weapons Check last year, and I've been involved in Weapons Check pretty much since the day I started Dagger here, 9 years ago. And if anyone wants to message me for anything currently that they have an issue with, I'd be more than happy to answer their questions about something they think they're going to make, or something they're going to that one of their friends is thinking about making, just to head them off at the pass. But in the future, we can as a chapter council, similar to what Sierra is doing with the bylaws changes, form a committee to get something on paper to say these are the accepted means based on what we do at Ragnarok for checking weapons and armor, and it's a good rule of thumb to go off of in your local chapters. That way everybody can see something. That way they don't have to ask a question to a person. They could just look up this document and, you know, do that thing. And I'm more than happy to lend my weapons check experience to making that document happen. And I know several other people who would be very happy to help with that as well.
Thank you. Go ahead, Tamorn.
Only thing I would caution is stop using a reference to Ragnarok. Just use national standard instead.
That's fair. Okay, so there was a recommendation from Tamorn as the DAG president to put a hold on the MOA change for one more meeting, to having that at the June 11th meeting, so it's immediately after DAG. Does anybody have, or Damon had, what are your thoughts? Are you okay with pushing it back one more meeting?
That's not exactly what I meant.
Okay, I apologize.
I meant allowing Damon's proposal to go through now as it was proposed, and allowing the opportunity for another set at the June 11th should the need arise.
Would we need to have a chapter council proposal to allow for the exception from the bylaws? This is why I was asking that, is because
all right, so my interpretation would be is that if you guys are trying to set precedent moving forward and allowing for the changes in technology and the changes in the way things are going, I would not call for a specific as by the rules interpretation for this one time as the president of the DBGA. I wouldn't be a stickler for it to allow the pulling in of more masses, I guess is what I'm saying. So I guess you could say that my proposal would be that we allow for an extended period to go over 2 meetings just to cover the changes. Does that make sense?
I understand. I don't know that I agree, but I understand where you're coming from.
No, if you disagree, that is wholly within you all's purview. That is what you all are for. So I'm just telling you guys that if you do it over 2, I'm not going to be a stickler. But if you want to specifically do it as 1, that's your bag. You guys are the chapter council. Over. I didn't mean to make things complicated, by the way, guys. I'm just trying to make it so that we don't alienate any further players and make anybody feel butthurt.
Go ahead, Trent.
I guess just trying to. This is very all running in circles and quite confusing. So are we suggesting that we're going to postpone this vote for another 2 meetings?
So my question at this time was, do we want to postpone this vote until the next meeting so that we can have all of the changes in one quote unquote set? Because in our current bylaws, it says that we're allowed to have 1 set of bylaw changes per year. And so that's why I was asking if we wanted to just move this one to the next meeting, which I know we have done a couple of times now, so that we could then have the argument that RAG is the opportunity for people to come together and have these conversations, and we can get the proposals in before the next meeting.
Okay, so this isn't about the rules change question. This is about a change of bylaws.
This is about how do we want to not necessarily interpret, but how do we want to apply the bylaws for this specific situation? Of do we want to vote on this bylaw change now, or and then allow a second set or a second meeting after RAG in order to have whatever other bylaw or MOA changes. My apologies. MOA changes may come up at RAG to then occur at the following meeting. So it has nothing to do with the proposal itself. In my mind, it was just a set of timing that between, are we voting on it over the next 2 weeks, or are we voting it on it after the June 11th meeting? Does that kind of clarify it a little bit?
I guess, I mean, I would think that maybe we should just standardize the date and say, this is the date, this is the meeting that we do this, and that meeting is set in stone every year on the same date or the same weekend.
That's fair. We just have not gotten that far ahead of with this procedure yet. But that could be a very well a bylaw change in and of itself.
Okay, I think maybe someone should write that. Maybe I'll write a bylaw that says a certain day is the day we do the bylaw changes.
There's currently a committee working on that.
All right. Thank you, Jeffrey.
Yeah, I agree with what Timornet said. I think it seems unfair to make Damon wait to vote on his proposal for another month and a half when he's been waiting for, since late last year. So I don't think it's any problem to have us vote in the next 2 weeks on his proposal. But then it also, like Hodor was saying, it does seem a little bit unfair to the rest of the DAG populace that there wasn't really a push from the official social media to ask for MOA changes from the general populace to submit to their chapter council representatives. So I think if it needs to be a proposal, I wouldn't mind proposing that we also have on our June 11th meeting, like another date for anybody else's proposals for this year to come in. Also with the addition that maybe the PR director or somebody in an official DAG BOD capacity should be blasting this on social media and everywhere else. That, June 11th, everybody get in your MOA changes by that date as well.
Working on that is kind of what I was trying to get at earlier, was just if we make this run proposal, all these issues go kind of on their own. If we want to push them for the vote on it over these next 2 weeks, that's fine. Since Demornis kind of mentioned that it'd be okay in this situation, then that is what it is. So I think that is a direction we can go in. It's just against what we've been doing up until this point. That these proposals and these changes that we're talking about now would still require a vote of the chapter council that per our current procedures would require a 2-week notice prior to a chapter council meeting. I guess that's just where my frustration has come from, is that, okay, we've been with this and we've had this meeting. I can understand the position of, oh, let's wait until after RAG and let's push to the next meeting. Let's have some more push for that. But we've already gone this direction this far, and trying to create these exceptions for this one situation is now just increasing that. But I'll step back for the sake of this, and since Tamor doesn't have an issue with it, and as the current DAG president, I'm going to default to his judgment on that. That we'll move forward, and then we'll just have another opportunity at the June 11th meeting. Go ahead, Tamor.
All right, so allow me to make this as my proposal. Do Damon's now, because it's been proposed and I believe it's already been seconded. I will get with Sil as the PR director of the DBGA and say, hey, look, we as the DBGA kind of dropped the ball on the announcement. The last opportunity for making MOA rules changes or rules changes, MOA rules changes need to be brought forth to chapter council representatives for the June 11th meeting, please provide them for that. And if any of them come through, you guys can then take a look at those. They can be proposed, they can be seconded, they can be voted upon that. And we'll blast it through all of the social media so that everybody has a chance to see that and an opportunity to get them. And we'll kind of take the blame on that and allow for public outreach. If that is amicable towards the rest of the chapter council, that would I think that would go a long way towards not alienating anybody else. Need to be proposed 2 weeks before the June 11th meeting based on the procedure. All right, over.
Thank you. Okay. Any other comments? So correct. Yes, the current procedure that the chapter council has followed up until this point is that we're going to have a 2-week proposal deadline prior to any meeting, so that chapter reps have a moment to discuss with their chapters in regards to any proposals made. There will then be a discussion at the chapter council meeting itself, and then there will be a vote over the 2 weeks after the chapter council meeting. And so that's where, like, if we're moving forward with this, we can't really even follow the current procedure of the chapter council to make this decision on this front of it. We could pull the reps here now, but based on the procedures and everything that we have followed up at this point, like, these deadlines have passed, these ideas have passed. We could propose it for the next meeting, but then it's going to be kind of retroactively applied to the proposals made to that meeting. As far as the, like, that's kind of where we're at. If we're moving forward with it, we're just making the decision now. We're going to run with it, and then that's just the way that it is. We're not following procedure in any sense of the word.
I'm sorry I made this difficult for you.
No, and it is a fair question. It is a fair understanding of, hey, we want to have more spotlight on this. We want to have more, like, attention to it, but it is also a complete, like, about face for the procedures that we have followed as a chapter council up until this point. But yes, they would need to be 2 weeks before. So yeah, the 28th sounds correct for the MOA changes by the June 11th meeting. See a couple individuals typing. I'll give them a second. Trent, to your question, I don't know that we have a published list of subcommittees currently. We just have the 2 subcommittees working. We have the one for the bylaw changes, or bylaw and MOA changes committee, that is working on setting the procedures for how to conduct those changes. And then we have a subcommittee working on the arbiter position to try and improve that that system. The members are volunteers of whoever was interested in participating, and I'm sure that we can get those to you. I think that those it may have just been missing the setting up the roles for whether or not to have them publicly viewable. Since we've just always advertised to anyone that's been present of, hey, if you want to join these committees, just let us know and we'll have you as part of that.
They were made private so that they weren't interfered with from the general public, because there were a bunch of things where people were just coming in and blasting things. We were having issues with trolls and stuff about stuff, people that were coming in and being obviously not helpful towards fixing the things. And Trent, to also address a lot of this, the timing of River Kingdom's formation. You guys came in as a chapter right after a lot of this discussion was had through the chapter council. It's all in the recordings though, and the meeting notes and stuff like that are in fact all there about the formations of these particular committees. But as a chapter council rep, you are always allowed and encouraged to question these things. So specifically, you could address Reacher for the Arbiter subcommittee, or you could address Cyril Lay for the Bylaws and MOA subcommittee. Over.
Thank you. Go ahead, Trent.
Yeah, no, that's I completely understand the timing, and thanks a lot, Tamar, for your service and volunteering, and Bruno, you're doing great. No, just kind of confusing because, like I said, like you said, when I came in, all this is already set up, so I keep hearing subcommittees, and I have no idea how many there are, who's on them, and what's going on. And I completely understanding wanting it to be a read only because, or you don't want everyone going in there because you are going to have people who are just going to stir trouble. But I think maybe if we could set it so it was read only for chapter reps, that even the chapter reps couldn't post there unless they were part of the group. But you know, that would keep every Tom, Dick, and Harry from posting in there, and that would at least let us see what's going on. But I understand if the groups are private, that's fine. I just didn't know how many there were, and I'll go back in the minutes and see. So maybe it's just a blind spot that I had. So,
let
thank
me
you.
ask you real quick, since you're right there. Scroll down on your Discord just below the voice chat that we're currently in. Do you see a section that says committees directly beneath voice chat?
All I see is CC closed meeting.
And nothing beneath that? Archive channels,
Nope.
read only.
I see archive channels read only.
But you don't see the committees. All right, I'll talk to Sil about what the actual permissions are, because that actually should be, as you stated, you guys should be able to read through that. You shouldn't be able to actually chat in it unless you're part of it, but I do agree that you guys should be able to be monitoring what the progress is through read only.
Got a hand for you, Tim.
What's up?
It's going to be under committee general, I think. You're going to have to scroll down where it says archive channels read only.
Mm-hmm.
And that's about, but what I'm seeing is the last time it was updated was
Now
October
there's
30th.
an entire section above that under committees.
Okay.
That is just because there's a voice chat for the committees themselves. There's an arbiter chat that's a text channel, and arbiters pins, and a bylaws and MOA section.
Got you. Got you.
I'll get with, like I said, I'll get with Sil to make sure that all of the chapter reps have read permissions for that, so that you guys can monitor progress on that. And then you could contact the head of the subcommittee, either Cyril or Reacher, if you had input, or one of the members of the committee. But what we were trying to prevent was people badgering members of the subcommittees. Because if they didn't want to volunteer to step up to be on the committee, then they shouldn't be hounding the people that are trying to actually do the work. The decision was made during, there was a lot of discussion being had on multiple Discord servers about people kind of interfering with either chapters, works, or subcommittees and stuff like that. It was really just trying to keep things a little bit more quiet so people could do their jobs. It wasn't trying to hide the information or anything else like that. It was trying to protect from the noise of the people that are screaming, you know, oh, you got to do this, you got to do this. And it was a lot of people that weren't even involved in the organization. We were trying to kind of quiet that outside interference to allow the organizational members to do what they wanted to do. But I'll make sure that I get with Sil about permission so that you guys can see all that. Over.
Yeah, I mean, I understand that, and I wasn't advocating for harassment or anything like that. And I know that it can be difficult when you have, people putting their heads. I know even in the CC meetings, we just get people who just want to keep stirring the pot and trying to cause stuff. And that wasn't what I was after. I was just after information.
No, I totally understand, and it had to do with exactly the reason that you just stated, that you know that people were interfering with how things were supposed to be going, and that was the intent. It
Absolutely.
wasn't I just don't think we set the permissions correctly, but we will try and rectify that. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much, Tamarin.
Yep.
All right. Anybody else have any other comments, callbacks, questions, comments, concerns? Okay, I'm gonna make one last comment real quick. I am going to be trying to conduct a pseudo election for the chapter council head position in case there is anybody else interested in heading that up. So after this meeting, I'll be making a proposal with regards to that. And so if there's anyone else interested in running these meetings, then we will probably have candidates available as a list by the next meeting and then vote at the meeting after that due to the procedural changes. Savers for life is impossible, unfortunately. Maybe for another term, I don't know, but we will need. I just want to make sure we kind of follow procedure a little bit there and give people the opportunity to head this if they wish. If there is nothing else, seconded for Bregan. Motion to adjourn. Anybody else? Anything?
Real quick, before we actually do adjourn, I'm going to be staying in this meeting voice after recording is done so that I can discuss some things with Zachary. If anybody else needs anything from me, please stick around and let me know. And back to Tavares, so you tell me when to stop.
Yep, we will end the recording now. Thank you all for participating, and I will look forward to meeting with you again on June 11th.